Hi, I'm Rob Price, and I'm talking to some inspirational leaders of some of the leading AI and Gen AI businesses in the world. Welcome to Futurise.
Good morning, Rob. I run Privately. I'm the CEO and founder. Privately is a Swiss company developing trust and safety technologies to keep kids safe online and offline. Not only kids safe, but also to help businesses offer age-appropriate experiences. Now, one of the big problems with the industry has been that, first of all, no one thought about age-appropriate design to go with. Everyone was hoping to maximize outreach to people. But then when you realize that loot boxes and games are being used by 9-year-olds, and porn can be watched at the click of a button, you realize something is wrong, and that the internet needs a recalibration towards age-appropriate design. And hence, there is a series of technologies which companies like us have created in order to help businesses deliver this age-appropriate experience. So that's what we do for a living, really.
And Deepak, can you just expand on that a bit more to tell us how you do that? So how do you know who's on the end of a phone or at the end of a internet session?
Yeah, I would again, I would have to be excused to be using the same common parlance you've been hearing everyone else talk about, but we use AI, and we've been actually one of the early pioneers of using, machine learning and artificial intelligence to then go through to process a lot of data to help the machine understand that a face looks like that of a 15-year-old as opposed to that of a 25-year-old. And hence, they might not be allowed to purchase alcohol, for example, online, right? That was an example. Or the voice sounding during this chat session is actually a child, and it's not an adult. And maybe this chat room is meant for adults, so that there might be an intervention, at the very least, asking the child, are you at the right place? That's what we do. But I think the more important part is how we do it, because the what is interesting, but the how is more important. You know, when you process such a long list of set of data, then one of the big problems that everyone is afraid of, and which is a very valid form of apprehension of the industry. What happens to all of this data? What happens to the personal data? Are you creating more surveillance capitalism? This data could be used for biometric surveillance. It could be used for all kinds of misappropriation. And that's, Rob, that's the thing I'd like to highlight. That's the problem we have solved. The technology, we are essentially a technology company. The way we implement this technology is that the processing is done completely on the device of the user. In effect, what this means is that when this camera is looking at me, it's the camera which becomes age aware. It's not the service, it's not Zoom, which is where we are having this call, which has my biometric information and that it's being processed. It's just that my own camera, for this brief moment of time, is age aware, and it knows I'm 18 plus, and hence if we have a transaction which involves buying a restricted substance, and I can go ahead. Now, this can happen both in online as well as offline cases. For example, someone walking into an alcohol store where, you know, it's mandatory in the UK, for example, to check IDs. But what if this could be automated? So these are a series of technologies now, especially which are privacy drawn, which I think can be really used to enhance the state of play and really improve upon what is existent today.
I mean, that's really interesting because, in essence, what you're saying is it's all processed at the edge, and
Absolutely,
therefore,
absolutely.
and therefore, when I've started this conversation thinking very much focused around child age
Yeah,
and safety, actually, your point is quite right. It's anything that's age context. So if I was walking into an off license to buy alcohol and needed to be 18, then there's almost that opportunity to do at the edge processing to confirm as I walk in that store.
in fact, that is one of the products which are our fastest selling product. It's called Age AI. It's right now deployed in Florida, in Ireland, and hopefully very soon in the UK. So it's really deployed at the convenience stores, but typically convenience stores selling alcohol or vapes or something like that. You walk in, the cashier's view sees the person coming in. They see the machine sees the face, no identification. It's just looking at the face saying, look, Mr. Cashier, ask for an ID. This person definitely looks under 25. As per law in the UK, you need to ask for an ID. So it helps the business to be compliant. It helps the clients to get a better understanding of whether checks and measures are being applied or not. So it's a win-win, and it's actually, when you do all of this at the edge, it can be done at, I would say, an order of magnitude less of a cost than involving large, complex server ecosystems. And this is where our innovation lies, really.
So normally I ask the question of why does this matter? But of course, I imagine parents listening to this everywhere will be wholly sold on why it matters, because they will be looking out for the safety of their children, and anything that improves that, I would imagine people would embrace it. How have you found in terms of the products and the message landing in the market? Is it something that's been embraced by people, or is it something, I mean, how have you found the impact?
It's a very, very interesting question, Rob, and I can spend actually the entire 20 minutes talking about this. But in summary, I have found that platforms are trying to thwart the innovation, and there is a very straightforward reason for it. I mean, the whole business case for ad and attention-based platforms is based on engaging people. Now, suddenly, if you're telling me that 25% on a certain large social network are people under 12, suddenly they are not able to advertise to them for all the right reasons. And suddenly think of the $650 billion ad spend market, which, if you tell me that 15% of that is misappropriated advertising to under 12s, that causes for a serious rethink, as it causes a serious rethink of the COPPA and all the other regulation in the UK, in the US, for example. So so hence you see that big tech has actually garnered up and created, they have lawyered up, created sort of what they call NGOs. There's a certain name called Net Choice. You can Google it. So they've created fronts to thwart and say, oh, this is surveillance economy. We can't know who's a child. We have to take their data. Whereas the truth is that the technology today allows that you have to take no data whatsoever. So let me give you an example of TikTok. So it's a 35-year-old mom's TikTok account, and suppose her 8-year-old daughter wants to make a TikTok, which she should not be allowed to make, let's say. As soon as she puts the camera on, the camera could say, oh, I'm looking at an 8-year-old, so I should not be letting her make an 8-year-old. And that technology is available today. We've been showing this to everyone. But to your question, no, we don't have very strong appetite from the platform, but for obvious reasons. But we have very strong appetite from all the restricted industries: alcohol, vaping, maybe adult, and so on and so forth, because for them it's more existential. And they're seeing, and retail per se, because it helps them move the lines very quickly. So if you're buying a can of beer in Florida sometime, you'll realize that even a 50-year-old like me would be asked for an ID, which is kind of ridiculous at many levels, but that's how the law is. And with the tech that we have now, anyone above 25 can just pass. And this is a certified system. The system has been certified in the UK. It's been certified in Germany. So transparency has been one of the things that we've been working with from day one. So we've exposed our system to certifiers, to the ICO. So the ICO has done an audit on our system. So one of the ways, in order to, from our side, to popularize this has been to say, look at the system. It's here. You can see it's taking no data. It's performant. But so far, we've not been able to get through the big platforms. But I see a lot of interest from the gaming industry. So my feeling is that might be also because of the $1 billion or close to $1 billion fine on Epic Games last year. So we are seeing a shift, but I think the platforms will fall into place over the next 8-12 months, also because you have the COSA regulation in the US, you have the California Age-Appropriate Design Code. And in spite of all the pushback from the platforms, I think it's bipartisan support for all of these regulations. So I see within the next 12 months, there will be no choice except to implement some or the other form of age-appropriate design, if you will.
And we're clearly stepping into the regulation and responsibility conversation there. One of the things that I've found over the years talking about digital responsibility is organizations are often most uncomfortable with the question around, is your platform geared around addictive behaviors, because of course, as you rightly say, then that's how they've maximized revenues for so long. We talked about ethics and AI ethics in the context of the way that you process personal data earlier on in the call, but it'd be interested to understand a bit more around the broader AI ethics. I mean, bias, for example, and how you've looked at proving the platform works irrespective of the individual being at the end of the camera, or the voice that's being listened to, because you'll have a multiplicity of accents or languages or skin tones. So talk to me a bit about AI ethics and how you found that, and responsibility.
So look, there is no doubt, and it would be wrong to say that AI is perfect and that it doesn't have any biases and so on and so forth. But it is fair also to say that, like humans, I mean, it's trained on data coming from humans. It's trained on faces. It makes somewhat the same mistakes as we as humans make. We make, for example, sometimes we often think, and particularly Asian faces, let's say Japanese, right? They tend to look younger for the same age. It's the same bias that the AI faces, because that's how we've been trained it. But over a period of time, we are seeing, so first of all is the acceptance that there is a bias, that there is a problem. What you need to do is to narrow down how, and be very clear what it can and what it cannot do. So for example, that, and which is where we draw the boundaries. For example, if you think about the Challenge 25 situation in the UK, so they have a 7-year margin. So it means to say that under 25, you will be asked for an ID. So it grants that kind of bandwidth to the human being. Probably AI needs a little lesser bandwidth, so they're doing it around 23. But then still there is this is the first thing to understand, that the AI will also make mistakes. But it is okay, because if you think about it at scale, we are bringing down, we are bettering the state of the art, definitely. And there will be, just like human beings, we will have some problems with AI as well. So that comes in terms of biases that are there. Now, as a technology company, when we look at the state of the art today and how we'll move forward, we're thinking we are always going to have a privacy preserving implementation. So none of our implementation ever collects users' data. So there we were not collecting users' data. But then to your question, how do we improve? And that we've taken this whole AI ethics training, etc., from a technology perspective as well. So we invested a lot of time and effort in developing what is called privacy enhancing technologies. And one of them is called federated learning. What it allows you to do is that when you have a firm proof of age, for example, let's say this interaction requires me to do a proof of age. So the camera detects looks at my face and thinks I'm, let's say, 45. And then post that, because I have to buy a restricted good and I need to show an ID, my ID check is also done during the same session. We do it with NFC on device completely. So then it has ground truth as well. So it has my face and it knows, oh, I detected this person is 45, but then when I looked at the ID, oh, actually this person is 50. So that moment is used to train the AI within the user's device without actually taking the data. And this is really state-of-the-art technology, federated learning. And over a period of time, we believe this is the frontier which will remove biases at scale. So with every bias or with every divergence that it detects, it's able to then collect all of those and converge to better accuracy. So you will see, I foresee that in the next 2 to 3 years, you'll have dramatic improvements in performance, both on face and on voice.
And that's a really fascinating point, and not one that we could have talked about before. So really interesting. Can we talk a bit about how you've attracted people into the organization to help you do the things? Because I'm guessing, in the context of the things that you're doing, that is about positive impact. I can't imagine it's been a problem kind of getting people to do things with you in the organization in terms of the attraction of talent. Is that so?
It's absolutely true. You see, we get so I can talk about the broad stakeholders. So let's start with my team. So I think we have a very dedicated and very committed team, which has gone through the lows and highs of being a startup. But also, we are all engineers, so that it comes with some kind of a mindset. We've been driven typically very much towards this It was the standing out technology, and it's been acknowledged time and time again through various channels. So as a team, we have quite a heavy, I should say, cohesion around our purpose and how we are building something quite unique, very, very differentiated from everyone else who's out there. And it's been acknowledged. So that gives us a very strong sense of purpose as a team. But when I talk about the broader stakeholders, even in the thick of, even in the very big crests and troughs of our journey, our shareholders, our advisors, broad set of people who are helping us build the business, industry stakeholders, people in regulation, people in government, people everywhere. I mean, the kind of attraction or the kind of engagement we get with them. I mean, we get called by the World Economic Forum, the IEEE, the United Nations, of course, Kensington Palace, a lot of other places, as we're seen as evangelists of this territory. So it is very encouraging, I have to say. So that actually buoys us all together and sees that okay, we haven't cracked the platforms just about yet, but we know we have something that they need, and eventually we're going to get there. So that's what's keeping us afloat, Rob.
Which is a brilliant introduction to my final question, which is how do we pull all that together with your ambition? So if we look forward to the next 3-5 years, what's your hope for Private?
So Rob, look, when I always make the analogy with the automobile industry. So I think the first T4 came around 1907 or 1910, let's say. But it was 1960 something before the seat belts were made a part of the mandatory set of packages what would constitute a car, the safety features of a car. I think we have the same problem with the internet. We went about building something, but then we see all sorts of issues, particularly with kids and older people scamming. I mean, just before this conversation, I got a scam call. Just seeing it, because my number has been compromised on some website. So if you put it all together, I think there's more to be done in terms of cyber safety, and one of the most core features of that is at least protecting the most vulnerable, which is younger people. Which means to say that there is no future without an age-appropriate, almost a redesign of the internet. And I see in the next 3 to 5 years, in most geographies, that will be in place, which is why I see, just to give you an idea, at this moment, we have traction from some of the largest players in pretty much all the restricted industries, but also from gaming industry, platforms, etc. Maybe not all of them actioning it right now, but they are seeing that this is coming. So they are already preparing themselves. And no matter how much the legislation is thwarted, but I think the time has come where you're seeing stronger fines. Just in the last, if you just look at the last 2 to 3 years, if you see the scale of the GDPR fines on TikTok, on Facebook, or on the data, kids data violation fines on Epic, on some of these others, they are just adding up. So I think it's a matter of time before businesses big and small realize that instead of retroactive fitting later on when the castle is burning, it might make sense to invest really in the design. And that's where I'm seeing a fundamental shift. It will take 3 to 5, like you said. If we talk at a global scale, it'll take 3 to 5 years. Maybe the UK will be one of the first, because you have the online safety bill passed now. And it's really the UK is leading the way. I'm seeing that because a lot of countries in Asia are looking at UK for templating some of this online safety. The US has done the same, copying more or less what the UK had proposed. So I'm definitely seeing that this is going to be a pretty big opportunity for companies like Privately, who have spent a long time building something, the day and age for which has come now. Yeah, really.
Deepak, that's a brilliant conversation. It's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much.